Hello everybody, Phil Standard, GunclassUtah.com. Hey, today I've just got another video update on the Gamboa situation. I have an update to talk about regarding the Salt Lake City No Kings protest in which a peacekeeper shot and killed an innocent bystander, and one of the participants in the rally, Mr. Gamboa, was jailed. You know, it's actually funny. I saw a news article the other day. The Peacekeeper has hired an attorney, Mr. Phillip Wormwahl, and he is hailing the Peacekeeper as a hero, claiming how many lives has the Peacekeeper saved by doing her heroic actions. I don't think the Peacekeeper's a hero at all. I don't think the attorney's right, but you know, God bless him for trying to make his client look good. I've learned some things reading some articles since all of this came out, and it appears that this is not Mr. Gamboa's first rodeo showing up at protests with an AR-15 and wearing a mask. There's several media articles circulating around there with his photo leading rallies with the AR-15 in his hand. Apparently, Mr. Gamboa is a political activist, and he was on their side at this No Kings protest. He was one of them. Gamboa and our judgment and common sense is not the same. I would not carry an AR-15 at this particular rally, open carry rally. I'm sure if Gamboa was asked if he'd do this again, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he'd do this again. I guess we'll see in the future if he continues to take rifles to protest once he gets back and once he gets his gun rights restored. In spite of me having opposite political views of Mr. Gamboa and not having the same judgment and common sense, I can't help but feeling sorry for this guy. I mean, the guy got shot at for lawfully carrying his rifle. You know, everybody, when the story first came out, they were talking about the Peacekeeper telling the police that the rifle was raised at the crowd, and that was the basis. And then that's totally been rebutted. Gamboa didn't raise his rifle at anybody. It's just funny that this attorney, Phillip Wormwahl, is hailing the Peacekeeper as a hero almost 2 weeks after this happened. And the reason I say that is because Mr. Gamboa's rifle, according to his attorney, was unloaded at the time that this happened. And I had one source come up and tell me right after this happened that Mr. Gamboa didn't even have any ammunition with him at the protest when he was shot and seen carrying that rifle. And that doesn't surprise me because the Salt Lake City Police Department, when I read their first press release, they did not mention any ammunition was recovered. They mentioned the gas mask and, you know, that he was wearing a mask and there was a gas mask and an AR-15 style rifle, but even the police didn't mention anything, any mention of having ammunition with him. You know, what I like to see in law enforcement and in general is accountability. And this Peacekeeper is not taking any accountability. Everybody's hiding his identity, and I just don't understand that. I think that the police should say his name, who he is, and talk a little bit about his background. Because I'm pretty sure he's not trained to shoot at 162 feet. And whether he gets charged with criminal charges for shooting Gamboa, it's going to boil down to a reasonable person's standard. And that is, what would a reasonable person do that was put in the Peacekeeper's shoes, given everything the Peacekeeper knew at the time that was going on? Now, I know a reasonable police officer would not have shot Mr. Gamboa. A reasonable peace officer, because they have more training, they would have realized if they would have saw Gamboa dressed in black clothing and wearing a mask, if that was even suspicious to an officer that would know that open carrying a rifle at a protest is not illegal. So that's not going to prompt a law enforcement officer to shoot at somebody for legally open carrying a rifle. That trained law enforcement officer is going to wait for a specific threat. For example, raising a rifle at a crowd or making it a threat accompanied by a show of immediate force to do harm to the crowd or somebody else. But the reasonable standard is going to be, they're going to pick somebody that has the Peacekeepers' similar background, as probably, I don't know if it'll be a veteran, but, you know, probably could just be a member of the community. This is a civilian. It's my understanding the Peacekeeper was not a law enforcement officer, and so that would be the standard. Now, as far as shooting Mr. Liu, the innocent bystander that was shot in the course of all this, I think that the DA has to really look at a manslaughter charge. In order to get to manslaughter, you have to recklessly take a human life. And, you know, I think shooting at 162 feet away into a crowd at a moving target violates safety rules, and I think it's reckless. I know this military guy wasn't trained to shoot a handgun at 162 feet. As I mentioned earlier, police are trained at a maximum of 25 yards, which is 75 feet. So it just seems to me like it's reckless. So I would really like to see this Peacekeeper take some responsibility, and for his lawyer to quit hailing him as a hero. That's just a lie. He didn't save lives that day. He didn't have a loaded rifle. He didn't point at anybody. But, you know, that's what lawyers do. They try to make their clients look good and get them off the hook. But there's a situational awareness that we learn in the police academy, and actually the military also learns this as well. There are 5 awareness states that people are in every day. And white, the first level, is an unaware state. So you're in your living room, you know, you're watching a movie with your family, something like that. You're not concerned about threats. You're sleeping or something like that. That would be a white state. When you go outside of your home, you never want to be in a condition white. When you go outside your home, you want to be in the next level, which is yellow. And yellow is an aware state. Being in yellow, for example, if you're out at a protest, you are aware of your surroundings and any potential threats or any potential violence that could be going on for you to steer away from. You're just aware of everything around you. Next level from yellow is orange state. And orange is an alerted state of a potential threat. So if we use this protest for an example, the Peacekeeper should have been in yellow if he is to make sure that the protest is safe and he's looking for threats that are occurring. He is in yellow. And when he locked on to Mr. Gamboa going to a secluded area behind that fence and taking a rifle out, and you know, he told the police that Gamboa manipulated this rifle. Okay, well, we know he wasn't loading it because it wasn't loaded, but maybe he was manipulating it to put it on safe, to make sure the gun was safe. Maybe he was manipulating it to make sure it was empty before he started carrying it. But beside the point, the Peacekeeper was in this orange state. He was watching the actions of Mr. Gamboa. And then when Mr. Gamboa left the secluded area behind this fence and went into the crowd, the Peacekeeper yelled at him to stop and drop the weapon, which is an unlawful order. Mr. Gamboa didn't have to drop his rifle for anybody, and he had every right to continue running away into the crowd when he was shot. He was shot because that Peacekeeper moved in from orange to a red state. And red is when you identify a threat and you need to take immediate action, which he did. He fired those 3 shots. One did graze Gamboa, and at least one other round struck the innocent bystander, Mr. Liu. The Peacekeeper should have never gone beyond orange. Okay? He sees this guy run into a crowd with a rifle, and it's not raised anybody, and he just takes the liberty of taking a shot at Gamboa. He should have never been in red. I honestly don't believe a trained police officer, if they were in charge of security, I don't think they would have shot him either. Because police have more training than a military veteran does in this case. You know, I mean, I'm not knocking on the military, but this guy was a military veteran, but military veterans don't know the laws like the police do. Okay? I honestly don't believe that the police would have shot Gamboa, given the facts that were going on. And this is what I always warn concealed carry students of: getting involved, intervening in situations that are out there outside of your house, that are in public. You always run that risk of not understanding the situation for what it is, and or taking action that is unlawful action in a situation. In this case, had the Peacekeeper maybe made a better decision, and we don't know why he made that decision. Maybe he didn't know what the laws were. Maybe he thought that carrying a rifle was an unlawful thing to do. I don't know. But he just didn't have the judgment that a trained police officer would. And that is just, I mean, I harp on people all the time. I say intervening in public in defense of persons is the honorable thing to do, but you run risks of civil and criminal liability if you get it wrong. And I think the Peacekeeper just got it wrong, and he just acted too quickly to pull that trigger. And, time will tell if he gets in any legal troubles or not. Thanks for watching.